Hey guys, David Pingree here at Milestone Raceway with another project bike today. This is from Pete Martini, our advertising guru out here on the West Coast with Racer X. And Pete wanted to build something that was affordable, but that actually could go and compete and be competitive at the races. And as a vet rider, I don't think we need to build too much horsepower into this thing. A lot of it's going to be about kind of function and fit and what works for him. And I think that's a pretty broad group of people. A lot of the bikes we build, and sometimes we get some nasty comments underneath about how only rich guys could afford this. Well, we're trying to build the coolest looking bikes we can, and so that's the way that goes. But this, more of an economical way to make something that looks cool and runs amazing. So we started with the Kawasaki 450, a great platform. Lots of motor in this thing, so it's not really necessary to put much more in it. But when you're doing starts at Glen Helen, sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of extra juice up that long straightaway into Talladega. So to start with the power plant on this thing, we did use a Vertex piston and a hot cam, stage 1 cam. And those are basically, the piston is designed to give it a little bit more compression, kind of boost the bottom end, and then the cam allows it to rev a little higher. So combined, they kind of boost power everywhere. And then we tied that in with an Akrapovic exhaust system. And it's our first time using one of these on one of our project builds. And obviously these guys do some amazing work with some of the other manufacturers on the race teams. So we're really excited to see how this thing ties in with that. So that's it for the power plant, nothing else. We did do some Hinson clutch plates, but we left the stock basket and pressure plate. On these 450s, truly, unless you're building a full engine, not really necessary. The plates are nice to give you a little bit better feel, but you actually, anytime you add a basket and stiffer springs, it makes the clutch harder to pull. And if you're riding these right, honestly, you shouldn't be using the clutch too much anyway. So we think that's going to be plenty. And that's it for the engine package. We didn't do anything else to it. We put some VPU4 in here, but that's really just for our test day today. This engine setup will run totally fine on unleaded pump fuel. Obviously the highest level of unleaded, but that'll work great. From there, we got a lot of cool other parts and pieces. So Race Tech helped us out. We've done this in the past on this bike, gotten rid of the air fork that we do not like, and throw in the spring conversion kit. It's become really popular, particularly on this bike. So we've ridden with these before. We liked them. We don't see any reason we wouldn't like them this year. This is all set up and valved for Pete, but the Race Tech guys are here. They're going to set sag for us today. We'll make a few adjustments, and I'm sure it'll work fine for me as well today. We'll check it out. And then other than that, we didn't get too crazy, right? So we've got some Renthal bars going on here, a Works Connection perch, and we kept that in silver so that it matches the stock front brake, just to keep the aesthetic looking right. We got some ODI lock-on grips, which are great grips. You feel these things, they're real gummy and sticky. And the lock-on is a pretty cool feature. No more glue and contact cleaner and paint. And these things don't move, so that's a really cool feature. Stock triple clamps, stock wheels. That's one thing that's great about the Cowie is it looks really good in stock trim. The black rims, hubs are strong. There's never been any issues there, and we left just stock rotors and everything. This thing works well out of the box, so not a lot of reason to mess with that. We did throw some Polysport plastic on because this was kind of getting scratched up from some riding. Great stuff there with Polysport. We threw a Works Connection skid plate on just to give us some protection. And then the Decal Works guys came through and built us a graphics kit. It's got the yellow numbers, so Pete's ready to go to Mammoth already. And then a moto seat cover, just kind of some basics. Threw some Dunlop MX3S tires on there, super sprocket and chain. And then we also threw some Scar foot pegs. I'm real big on having your contact points, addressing those. So grips, seat, and foot pegs. Those are the three places you're touching the bike, and you want to make sure that you're getting the most performance out of those three spots. So the Scar foot pegs, titanium, incredibly sharp. These things are a nice platform, and they keep you planted to the bike. So we've used these in the past. We love them, and we'll check those out today as well. So that's it. You can see it's pretty basic. Even some of this stuff, if you wanted to keep it simpler, you could save even more money, but this is a pretty efficient way to take an already great bike and go racing and be competitive. So let's go get this thing on the track. We've got Bruce Murata, who's one of our Racer X test riders. He's going to be on this thing today, and we'll get his feedback when we're done. We're back from riding here. Bruce Murata, our guy, putting some laps on the Kawasaki 450 for us. And Bruce, you've ridden these before. You've actually ridden a Cowie for us in the past. Tell me what you thought of this bike. First impressions jumping on.
First impression, the bike was, for me, actually had a little bit too much power. Coming out of the corners, the thing was just really pulling. I know for some of the racers that are being competitive, it would be a really good advantage for them. But for me, kind of being more that vet guy now, just kind of having fun, it definitely was. It was quick. It was fast.
It's a handful.
Yeah, it's definitely a handful. That was my first impression going on it.
Does it almost has to, it forces you to sort of change the way you ride, maybe ride a gear taller, leave the clutch alone, and really just use the throttle to modulate power. You find you got comfortable with it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and my current bike I'm riding is 2-strokes, so I'm being very aggressive on a 2-stroke. So transitioning to this, I definitely had to change the riding style, like you said. I had to, go a gear higher and just really roll onto my throttle coming in the corners. And once I did that, it felt really good. I was comfortable.
Yeah. Okay. And what about? I wanted to ask you specifically about the Akrapovic, and I know it's hard to differentiate that between the other engine work, but anything you noticed on this thing? How's the sound? What that does to the power?
For the power, it was, obviously it was great for how fast it was. It seemed, for me, comparing it to like a stock version, definitely it seemed a little bit louder. But me personally, I like that when I can actually hear the bike a little more instead of being like quiet. So
your neighbors don't like that,
yeah,
but as racers, we like that.
Yeah, neighbors, or if you're trying to get away with riding in some spots. But no, it's I liked it. It was good. So
looks good. I know that, and listening to it on the track sounds really throaty. Going to the suspension, we've done these race tech kits before where they kind of get rid of the air stuff and throw springs in and give you back that spring fork feel. Forks and shock, what do you think there?
So for me, I've always been a fan of spring fork. So with this conversion kit, I was pretty stoked on. With the track conditions today, there wasn't too many big bumps, just more little chatter bumps. So I didn't have to really adjust anything. We just set the sag to what I wanted it at, which was 105, I believe. They did the rear on this, and after that, the bike for me settled good in the corners, and it was smooth. It was a good ride. So overall, it felt good. So no complaints.
And that's a tip of the cap to the guys at Race Tech and even the Kawasaki guys, for just making a good handling bike. When you don't need to make any adjustments, they can set the sag and the thing's spot on. That's definitely a mark of a good suspension company.
Yeah.
What about the other parts and pieces? So we've got the foot pegs on here, Scar foot pegs, titanium, really good platform there. The grip on the seat cover, the ODI grips.
Yep.
Your contact points, how was that for you?
Yeah, like you said, the pegs, they're a little more oversized in stock. Those feel really good for planting, and it gives it a better feel ride. The grips, the ODI grips, those are great. The seat, I was able to get mounted in my cornering with the grip on it, so it was everything that was on here, it felt really good.
Okay.
So,
and what about some of the little bits and pieces too? This has got a works connection clutch lever. Some of the other things you're not going to feel, like the radiator braces and chain and sprocket, but tires, kind of the little componentry and stuff like that.
Yeah, obviously you can never go wrong with Dunlop. That's always been #1 choice of tire for me. So traction was great out there. The levers, I like the works connection lever, how it was adjustable. It's got that good adjustment on there, so you can adjust it while you ride. So all that felt really good. And like you said, the radiator braces, you don't really feel it so much when you ride, but it's definitely good to have because, you don't want to be buying a new radiator after tipping it over in a corner. So
we built this thing kind of with the average racer in mind, weekend racer, a guy who can't spend, thousands and thousands of dollars, but wants to still be competitive. How do you think we did?
I think it did a great job. Because with this engine package, how you guys set it all up, like I said, my first impression on it, the bike was fast. And so I think for your local average racer, this is definitely a good package for that person. More of a vet guy that just kind of wants to just go have fun. I feel like it was a little bit too aggressive on that side. But going back to if you want to be competitive racing locally and just having fun racing, this is definitely a good package.
All right, and what about our gearing? That was another question I wanted to ask. We stayed with stock gearing. But when you do add this much horsepower into an engine, you can tend to go up. Mm-hmm. How do you think it would have handled a taller or a lower, smaller rear sprocket?
Me personally, I feel with the gearing that it had on here, it was pretty good the way it was. And obviously, it definitely depends on the track that you're riding. For where we were today, the gearing on here felt really good. So if you go out to a track that has more elevation change, yeah, you might want to mess with the gearing a little bit. But for what we did today, it was definitely good. So
well, that makes it easy.
Yeah.
Pretty dang good just the way we have it set up. Thank you to all the companies that got involved. Race Tech came out today and supported us and did a great job with this stuff. Hot Cams, Vertex Pistons, you know, all the companies that were integral in getting this thing put together. We really appreciate it. And thanks for coming out. I appreciate it, Bruce. Always fun to have you. We'll see you guys on the next build.